There were different articles about the tariff and world economy issues. And supposedly, the arguments being made by some in the White House is that the tariff structure will allow us to reindustrialize the United States.
I think that's another place where you can see some of these cleavages. So, the people involved in the Heritage Foundation and involved in this report are mostly products of the Reagan era, and they believe in free trade. And you can see they're willing to compromise on some things and not on others. So they're not willing to compromise on abortion. They're not willing to compromise on their vision of society. But they understand that Trump is the president, Trump is their vessel of power, and Trump cares, a great deal about tariffs. So they have these dueling chapters, one by a free trader arguing that tariffs are a bad idea, and then another by Peter Navarro, who of course is in the White House now, arguing in favor of tariffs. And Navarro, it is very much, we're going to reindustrialize. We want to, either onshore or nearshore things, move things into Latin America. We should tariff Chinese products at 100%. The goal should be to get rid of Chinese imports altogether. And he sees, China taking advantage of the U.S. in trade and wants to push back on that. It's much more narrowly focused than Trump's tariffs. Trump is so obsessed with trade deficits as a concept. And I think Navarro and others have tried to, sort of harness that and to support their agenda, but it's not the same. Trump just wants to tariff everyone, and he wants to take money from everyone in his vision, without really understanding how tariffs work.
You have cuts in Medicaid, which will come in automatically because of the increase in the debt, and you have cuts in Medicare. So how do you see all that? I mean, what kind of society are they aiming for when essentially they reduce all the social entitlements of the past 60 to 70, 80, 90 years to nothing?
They have been opposed to these things for a long time, as you said. There's an opposition to general New Deal programs and to Great Society programs. It's interesting, and it's also in conflict with Trump's promises, which have been, already broken in places, but his claims that he wouldn't touch Social Security or Medicare. And they say in Project 2025, they say our debt problem is a Social Security and Medicare problem. But then they don't want to touch that, and I think they understand the political toxicity, or they think it's politically toxic. But this is a place where they want a government that does much less for citizens, and they would like to shift that burden to churches and community organizations. Then they just think it should be the federal government's role. And in education, they would like to be, their ideal situation would be for America to get out of the public school business altogether. And have the government funding schools, but basically providing national vouchers so that states could run, public religious schools or religious schools. They could run private schools of all sorts, but they wouldn't have to maintain public schools as we know them.